will follow the press conference of the President. Just in a couple of moments, I've been told you will receive all of the relevant documents on the proposal on both the MFF and the recovery package. You will receive those documents via the WhatsApp group which we use here at the Council. So please take a careful look at all of the documents we will send you just in a couple of minutes. There will be a Q&A session with the President, and then after that Q&A session we will call a short break for just a couple of minutes because we need to change the setting here. The press conference will be, as we announced, be followed by a technical off-the-record briefing by the President's head of the Cabinet and the European Council's Secretary General. And so you can ask questions, of course, remotely during both events. And last remark, the President's remarks will also be published on our website following the press conference. And I hear the President will be nearly here. So please join and welcome.
Good morning, everyone. 1 week from today, the 27 leaders will come together here in Brussels, and it will be our first physical meeting since the beginning of the crisis. As you know, last May, on the request of the European Council, the Commission presented a package that combines the MFF and the recovery instrument Next Generation EU. On June 19th, leaders had a first discussion on this proposal, and these discussions revealed strong opposition to some elements of the package. As a result, I immediately began negotiations and bilateral meetings with all the leaders. And based on these discussions today, I propose my revised propositions for the European multi-annual budget and the recovery plan. It's firmly grounded in our European priorities: climate transformation, digital agenda, European values, and a stronger Europe in the world. And the goals of our recovery strategy can be summarized in 3 words. First, convergence. Second, resilience and transformation. Concretely, this means repairing the damage caused by COVID-19, reforming our economies, and remodeling our societies. Last week, I concluded my bilateral discussions with the 27 European leaders, and I've also met with the European Parliament several times, both formally and informally. From these discussions, I have identified the 6 building blocks of a possible future agreement, and we need to fight the right balance to reach a final political agreement. The first building block is the following: the size of the MFF. For the size of the MFF, I proposed 1,074 billion in order to fulfill the long-term objectives of the Union and to preserve the full capacity of the recovery plan. My current proposal is largely based on my February proposal, which reflected 2 years of discussions between Member States. The second building blocks, the rebates. The rebates, based on my proposal, will be maintained for Denmark, Germany, Netherlands, Austria and Sweden in real terms on the basis of 2020 and in a lump sum. The third building block is the size of the recovery package, the recovery fund. The Commission will be empowered to borrow up to 750 billion euros through an own resource decision. These funds may be used for back-to-back loans and for expenditure channeled through MFF programs. This is an exceptional and one-off tool for an exceptional situation. The fourth building block, loans and grants. I propose to preserve the balance between the loans, guarantees and grants to avoid overburdening member states with a higher level of debt. This is also key to the future of the single market and to prevent more fragmentation and disparities. The fifth topic, the allocation of recovery and resilience facility. This proposal establishes a real link between the recovery plan and the crisis and ensures the money go to the regions and sectors most affected by the crisis. I propose that 70% of the recovery and resilience facility will be committed in 2021 and 2022 according to the Commission's allocation criteria, and 30% will be committed in 2023, taking into account the drop in GDP in 2020 and 2021. The total envelope should be disbursed by 2026. The sixth building block is the question of governance and conditionality, with three important goals that we need to reach. The first one, reform and resilience national plans. On governance, member states will prepare, based on our proposals, national recovery and resilience plans for 2021-2023, in line with the European semester, notably country-specific recommendations. The plans will be reviewed in 2022, taking into account the final allocation key, and the assessment of these plans will be approved by the Council with qualified majority vote on a proposal by the Commission. The second important goal that we need to reach is related to climate change. And for the first time, we propose to target 30% on funding on climate-related projects. It is important for Europe's young generations and Europe's future ambitions. Climate transition remains our top priority, and our recovery must also focus on the transformation of our economies. Expenses under the MFF and Next Generation EU will comply with our objective of climate neutrality by 2050, the EU's 2030 climate targets and the Paris Agreement. The third important conditionality that I propose to support is the question of rule of law and the European values. We are taking a key step to anchor the rule of law and values in our European project. And that's why I propose a strong link between funding and respect for governance and rule of law. We have different instruments to address this issue. First, a new budget conditionality. I maintain the February proposal, sanctions on funds to be adopted by Council with qualified majority vote. We have also the rule of law monitoring under preparation by the Commission, and in this context I propose that the Commission and the Court of Auditors report on deficiencies in the rule of law that affect the implementation of the European budget. We have, of course, also Article 7 of the Treaty, and I propose to increase the funding for rule of law and values projects through additional financing for the European Public Prosecutor's Office and the Justice, Rights and Values Programme, with a special focus on the fight against disinformation and to promote media pluralism. Then I come to some other essential topics. First, repayments and own resources. Many member states and the European Parliament expressed concerns over the repayment and the beginning of the next budget cycle. They also criticised the lack of own resources that would finance the reimbursement. In my proposal, repayments would start earlier in 2026, so 2 years ahead, and this commitment enhances the pressure on us to introduce new own resources. First, I propose to focus on 3 areas: plastic waste, carbon adjustment mechanism, and the digital levy. There will be a new own resource related to the use of plastic waste starting in 2021, and I propose to invite the Commission to put forward a proposal in the first semester of 2021 on a carbon adjustment measure. And I will propose to introduce a digital levy with the view of introducing it by the end of 2021 based on the Commission's proposal. Then I propose to invite the Commission to come back with a revised proposal on ETS, and finally we will continue to work on the project of a financial transition mechanism. You see, here there is a very strong ambition to make important progress. Then I come with another essential challenge and with also a new proposal, Brexit. Brexit is challenging for all of us, and that's why we propose a Brexit reserve of 5 billion. We would create this reserve in order to counter the unforeseen consequences in the most affected member states and sectors. Finally, it's essential to learn the lessons. Health sector is a fundamental sector, and that's why for both WestEU and health, we will increase in line with the Commission proposal in order to respond to COVID-19 and the consequences of COVID-19. Mesdames et messieurs, vous voyez que la proposition qui est mise sur la table, comme je l'ai indiqué d'emblée, correspond à cette ambition de rencontrer en même temps trois objectifs essentiels pour l'avenir de l'Union européenne. Le premier, c'est la nécessité de poursuivre les efforts soutenus afin d'amplifier la convergence sur le plan européen. C'est une condition essentielle et nous sommes pleinement mobilisés avec les propositions qui sont formulées afin de continuer à progresser pour faire reculer les disparités et pour renforcer la convergence sur le plan européen. Le deuxième objectif, c'est bien sûr la résilience. Nous l'avons vu dans le cadre du Brexit, dans le cadre de crises qui précédemment d'ailleurs ont touché le monde et l'Union européenne, renforcer la capacité de résistance lorsque nous faisons face à des chocs, à des difficultés, à des vents contraires, doit être un objectif absolument commun qui doit nous mobiliser. Puis enfin, cette conviction, la transformation sur le plan économique, sur le plan social, l'impérieuse nécessité de considérer l'agenda digital et le changement climatique, non pas comme des contraintes, mais comme des occasions pour rendre l'Europe plus solide, plus robuste, pour mobiliser aussi le soutien de l'ensemble des citoyens européens et être à la hauteur de cet enjeu qui est l'enjeu pour notre génération. Une Europe meilleure, une Europe plus verte, une Europe plus robuste, ça doit être l'enjeu. Et enfin, je voudrais vous dire qu'il y a au-delà de ce débat extrêmement difficile, ces négociations extrêmement complexes et de l'enjeu financier, parce que les montants en jeu sont extrêmement importants, il y a un autre motif qui doit pleinement nous mobiliser et nous motiver. Au travers du débat qui est ouvert maintenant et la capacité que nous aurons, je l'espère, à prendre des décisions claires, fortes, solides dans les prochains jours, au-delà de ce débat-là, il y a la question de la place de l'Europe dans le monde. Où voulons-nous placer l'Europe sur la carte du monde dans les 10 ou les 15 prochaines années? Il y a là une ambition très très forte qui sera rencontrée dès lors que nous sommes capables de faire preuve d'unité, d'être rassemblés autour de ces objectifs communs, objectifs de convergence, objectifs de résilience, objectifs de transformation pour une Europe meilleure au service de tous les citoyens européens dans tous les pays européens. Je vous remercie.
Merci, Président. Thank you, Mr. President. We'll have a Q&A session now. I see that a couple of people have already raised their blue hand. May I remind you that we have English, French and German interpretation for this press conference. So I'm first going to turn to Lily Bayer from Politico. Lily, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Thank you, President. I have two questions. The first is, some member states have raised concerns that your rule of law proposal would be very difficult to actually use, to actually trigger. How do you respond to these concerns? The second thing is, you chose to maintain the balance between grants and loans proposed by the Commission. some frugal member states have raised very serious opposition to this. So how will you colleagues in The Hague and in Stockholm and other capitals to accept this? Thank you.
D'abord, un mot sur l'état de droit. Nous n'avons pas l'intention de baisser la tête ou de fermer les yeux. L'état de droit est un enjeu clé pour l'avenir du projet européen. L'état de droit, les valeurs fondamentales, les principes d'égalité, les principes de liberté, la liberté de la presse, le combat contre toutes les formes de désinformation sont au cœur des fondations du projet européen. C'est la raison pour laquelle, vous l'avez compris, dans la proposition qui est mise sur la table, nous agissons de plusieurs manières. D'une part, nous agissons parce que nous proposons de mobiliser plus de moyens financiers européens afin de soutenir les programmes qui encouragent le progrès dans le cadre de l'état de droit, dans le cadre de la bataille contre toutes les formes de discrimination. Et par ailleurs, ce serait une première, j'espère que nous pourrons prendre cette décision, nous proposons de faire un lien entre les financements qui sont mobilisés au départ de l'Union européenne et les questions de gouvernance, d'état de droit, de respect des valeurs fondamentales. Nous allons mener ce débat avec respect pour tout le monde, nous allons mener ce débat avec une très forte conviction sur le terrain des valeurs. Et par ailleurs, vous l'avez compris, je fais aussi le lien avec le travail qui est en cours au départ de la Commission européenne et qui vise à mettre en place un monitoring permanent afin que dans chacun des 27 États membres, on puisse en permanence regarder comment nous progressons afin de relever les capacités, de faire en sorte que l'état de droit, les valeurs, la gouvernance soient au cœur de nos priorités. The second question is of course a difficult question. What's the right balance between loans and grants? And it's not a surprise. You are all informed. There are different opinions around the table. There are different sensitivities around the table. And first of all, I would like to show respect for all the sensitivities, for all the opinions. It's my task to do everything in order to try to reach an agreement with the support by unanimity of 27 member states. It's difficult, it's complex, of course, but why is it so important in my opinion? And that's why I follow the proposal of the Commission on this topic. Why is it so important to be clear and to consider that we need grants, and it's a substantial part of this discussion? Because for some member states in Europe, the high level of debt is a possible problem not only for them, it's also a problem for the single market. And there is a strong link between this recovery strategy and the need, in my opinion, not only to protect the single market, but also to strengthen the single market and to fight against the disparities in the single market. Because nobody in Europe has an interest for more disparities in the single market. On the contrary, we need to work in order to strengthen the single market, because the single market is one of the very strong assets that we have as the European Union.
Thank you, President. Turning now to Markus Prijs. Markus, can you hear us? There you are.
Can you hear me as well? Good morning.
Please unmute, Markus. Could you turn on your microphone?
Okay. You hear me?
Yes, if you could raise the volume.
We can hear you.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning.
Your proposal seems to give the Council a stronger say when it comes to the disbursement of funds. Why is this necessary from your perspective? And is that in a way a vote of no confidence toward the European Commission? Thank you.
I'm sorry, but I didn't hear what you said.
Could you repeat your question, please, Markus?
Yes, I can. My question was, your proposal seems to give the Council a stronger say when it comes to the disbursement of the funds. Can you explain why was this necessary, and isn't it in a way a vote of no confidence toward the European Commission? Thank you.
You are right that if I've tried to work on the basis of 6 strong political building blocks, it's because I think that we need to find the right balance. And if, on the one hand, we would take the decision to keep a very strong ambition for the recovery fund and for the size, but also for the balance between grants, loans, and guarantees. I've listened to everybody, and I understand it's also necessary necessary to be certain that we implement the reforms that we need in order to be stronger in the future at the economic level. And that's why, indeed, I had the impression, based on different talks that I had the last days, the last weeks, it was essential to be very clear that, indeed, we need a stronger role for the Council. We need to strengthen the responsibility of the Council in order to make sure that we will implement everywhere the necessary reform. But at the same time, it's also important to take into consideration this idea of ownership, and it's very important at the national level that all the national authorities are involved, are totally committed in order to work together. But I don't underestimate the difficult topic, the difficult question. At the end, I have the impression that we need to have the global vision in order to find a global political balance which would be acceptable for everybody. Today, the 27 leaders will come together here in Brussels.
Hello, please, to the technical team. Yes, the echo is gone. Thanks a lot. Turning now to Tobias Kaiser. Tobias from Die Welt, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hear me?
Yes, we can. Please.
Oh, thank you very much. This is a question. I have two questions. One is regarding the digital tax. You propose to have a digital tax starting next year, plans for European digital tax. Is this also a statement saying, okay, you think an international digital tax won't happen within the next year? And the other question is, when we talk about the summit next week, the Commission and the Presidency have said that they expect an agreement in July. Now, when I look at your proposal, we see a lot of points that are still open to discussion. Do you think that optimism is warranted, or maybe we'll need a longer discussion about these things? Thank you.
First of all, I don't propose a tax. I propose a digital levy. It's a first important point, and indeed, I think that we need to progress at the European level. That's why I'm very precise. I'm very ambitious in my proposal, because I propose a clear political schedule in order to make progress and to take together a decision, which would be, I think, a very important signal for many reasons. But at the same time, I think it's important to continue all the international efforts. But I'm realistic. We work, you know, that in the framework of the OECD in order to try to make some progress at the international level. It seems to be difficult. We don't discover today that it's difficult, but it's not because it's difficult that we will give up. I think that it's important to continue all the efforts also at the international level. But I'm very clear. I think that in Europe, we need to take a clear step, and that's why I propose a clear political schedule. It's also a question of credibility, because all this framework, all this political framework, is based on this idea of own resources, and that's why it's important to be credible and to be precise on that. It's what I'm trying to do with this very concrete proposal. The second question, if I'm optimist by nature, I'm always optimistic, but at the same time I'm realistic. I don't underestimate the difficulties, because I repeat that I show respect for the different opinions, and I know that each Prime Minister, each President, he needs to be responsible for his national or her national parliament, and it means indeed that we need to combine two democracies. On the one hand, the European democracy is based on the democratic European institutions, the role of the European Council, also the role of the Parliament, the role of the Commission. But at the same time, we need to reach an agreement by unanimity. It makes a big difference when in a democratic assembly you need to have a majority, or even a qualified majority is one thing, unanimity is something else. In all the local councils everywhere in Europe, we know that it's much more difficult to reach an agreement by unanimity than by a simple or even a qualified majority. it means that this proposal, in my opinion, is a basis, is a strong basis. I propose a political balance. I know that we will need in the next days to work very hard in order to prepare the next physical summit, and I know that during the summit we will have difficult discussions, but I count on the political courage. I think that now it's time to act, now it's time to decide, and I hope that it will be possible for everybody around the table to take a step in the direction of a decision.
Next question comes from Yanis from Katimerini. Yanis, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear?
Yes, please.
Great. Okay. A question about the precise nature of the involvement of the Council. So it will be, in your proposal, approving the recommendations of the Commission about the recovery and resilience plans of the countries. Will it also be involved in a second stage where the Commission will be approving the implementation of the plans, or will there only be QMP on the first stage? Thank you.
No, my answer is clear. It's yes, the Council will be more involved and also in the implementation phase. I know that it's a difficult topic, I repeat. I know it's a sensitive question, and I know that around the table there are different opinions. For some member states, it would be better if the Council would not be involved. For others, it's very important that the Council would decide everything. It's a small caricature, but we observe totally different opinions of this topic, and I'm trying to propose a bridge between the different opinions around the table, and we will continue to work on this topic, like we will continue to work on the other difficult building blocks.
We'll move to Ep from the Estonian Public Broadcasting Company. Ep Ehand, can you hear us?
Hello, thank you very much. I would like to ask about this own taxes and new resources. Many states are not happy with this proposal. Could you imagine that the agreement could be reached also, for example, just that we will pay more in the future budget?
Mm-hmm. All the architecture proposed by the Commission is founded on this idea that we can agree on the importance to take a decision related to the own resources. But it's not only just to say we will take a decision on the own resources. It's important to be more precise, to be clearer, and it's what I'm trying to do by putting on the table some very concrete proposals, and also by proposing a very clear political schedule in order to make progress. And it means that we will need a very strong cooperation with the Commission, with the European Parliament, but I don't forget that at the end we need also, which is important, the ratification by the national parliaments. And it means that we will have intense discussions, not only in the next days. I know that an agreement by the European Council would be a very fundamental step, but after that we need to continue in order to implement this very strong strategy. But please don't underestimate the importance of what's on the table. I repeat, it's not a cliché. We are facing an unprecedented crisis, never seen, unprecedented by nature and unprecedented by the consequences. And that's why it's very important also in an international perspective to give a very strong signal. And our goal is not to burn money. Our goal is to invest and to reforms. Investments and reforms. And our goal is to, I repeat, is to transform this European project, taking more into consideration the climate challenges, the digital challenges, but also to make this project and to make our European Union more resilient. I want a better Europe. I want a more robust Europe. It's our duty for all European citizens everywhere in Europe.
Thank you. Moving now to David Caretta from Radio Radicale, Italian. David, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for this press conference. David Carretta, Radio Radicale. Question en français, si je peux, à propos des réformes. Est-ce que les États membres devront respecter les recommandations de l'année 2020 qui sont centrées sur les dépenses, ou aussi 2019, 2018, etc., où il y a plus de réformes structurelles à faire? Merci.
Je vais répondre avec plaisir, naturellement, en français, puisque la question m'est adressée en français. Donc, naturellement, la question est effectivement pertinente, et je propose que l'on prenne effectivement en considération les recommandations spécifiques par pays. Et je pense qu'on doit regarder effectivement, si on veut être efficace, qu'est-ce qui a été recommandé au pays durant les dernières années. Je pense qu'il est important de mettre sur la table ce qui a été recommandé durant les dernières années. Et nous aurons ce débat autour de la table.
Merci. On passe la parole à Griselda de Cadena Ser. Griselda, tu nous entends?
Oui, merci beaucoup. Griselda Pastor de la radio espagnole Ser en français. Aussi, Monsieur le Président, qu'est-ce qui change pour les pays qui payent le plus avec ces 26 000 millions, je crois, de coupures pour le budget pluriannuel? Et est-ce que le maintien du rabais et cette offre, c'est une tendance que vous ouvrez? Donc, on est dans la voie de commencer à recouper l'essai de ressources qu'on devrait investir dans les prochaines années dans l'Union, ou c'est une offre un peu à prendre ou à laisser?
Moi, je veux dire, depuis la fin du mois de juin et le dernier conseil par vidéoconférence, on est vraiment rentré avec les différents pays européens dans l'intensification de la négociation. Et ce que je propose, ce que je mets sur la table, est quelque chose de sérieux pour vraiment rentrer dans le vif de cette discussion et aller vers la capacité de prendre des décisions. Et je veux être tout à fait transparent. C'est d'ailleurs la raison pour laquelle je mets à disposition de l'ensemble des délégations, de la presse, du Parlement européen, les propositions, y compris les tableaux chiffrés qui traduisent les propositions qui sont sur la table. Je vais être très transparent. Il se fait que nous avons le projet de budget qui s'inscrit dans une perspective de long terme et pour lequel, en effet, je propose, en comparaison avec ce que la Commission a mis sur la table, mais aussi avec ce que j'avais mis sur la table au mois de février, je propose une réduction du MFF et je propose de maintenir des rebates. Mais je propose de maintenir globalement au même niveau les politiques de cohésion, parce que c'est lié à la convergence. Cohésion, agriculture qui est liée à la convergence. Et je propose effectivement de regarder le budget européen en prenant en compte les montants qui sont extrêmement importants, qui sont mobilisés dans le cadre du Recovery Fund, parce que ces montants vont contribuer aussi, en étant liés à la crise du Covid, vont contribuer aussi à faire en sorte que, tant dans le cadre du budget que du Recovery Fund, on puisse progresser pour ce que j'appelle une Europe plus robuste, une Europe meilleure, c'est-à-dire une Europe susceptible d'être davantage résiliente, davantage orientée vers la modernisation, vers la transformation pour prendre en considération les nouveaux défis. Mais je rappelle que la convergence est un objectif majeur pour tout le monde. Le marché intérieur sera davantage robuste et solide demain si on fait reculer les disparités, si on fait reculer les morcellements, les émiettements, qui sont des fragilités pas seulement pour quelques pays européens, parce que nous avons la zone euro, parce que nous avons le marché intérieur, les fragilités de quelques pays européens sont des fragilités pour l'ensemble de l'Union européenne. Et je répète cela en français, je répète cela, je regarde ce qui se passe dans le monde. L'Europe n'est pas une île au milieu de nulle part. Nous représentons 450 millions de citoyens avec des traditions fortes en termes d'état de droit, en termes de valeurs. Nos standards européens sur ces questions d'égalité, de non-discrimination, de démocratie sont des standards extrêmement essentiels. Et moi, je compte bien, à travers cette proposition, faire en sorte que la robustesse de l'Union européenne, dans toutes ses dimensions économiques, sociales, aussi la robustesse de l'Europe dans le monde, afin que dans le monde, on puisse porter nos valeurs, nos standards européens.
Going now to the Irish Times, Naomi O'Leary. Can you hear us, Naomi?
Ne répond pas. Il ne répond pas. OK.
Griselda.
Hello.
Hello.
My question regards the 5 billion Brexit reserve that was mentioned. Could you tell me any more details about the nature of that? And also, that's my main question for now. Thank you.
Yeah. About Brexit, as we all know, it's also a very complex challenge for all of us, and we all know that the ongoing negotiations are not easy, and we know that probably by the end of the summer or in September, October, we will have a clearer vision about where we are in this negotiations process. And as you know, we had in June this high-level meeting with the British authorities, and I repeat again, all our support for the incredible job and work of Michel Barnier. But we know that with an agreement or without an agreement, Brexit will have consequences in Europe for the member states. And that's why I think it's interesting, useful, necessary to ask the Commission to prepare a needs assessment by November 2021, and on the basis of this needs assessment, we can imagine some proposals, more concrete proposals, and probably allocation criteria in order to support the countries or regions and sectors which will be more affected by Brexit. I propose a significant amount, 5 billion euros. It's a very important signal. It's new, but I think it's necessary.
We're going to take two more questions now. Euronews comes up first. Shauna Murray. Shauna.
Hi, sorry. Thank you for taking the call. Just on the 750 billion euro fund, do you expect there to be any changes about how that money is allocated, the allocation key? And also, could you be just a little bit more specific in relation to the rule of law and what can happen to countries who are found to be in breach of EU rule of law? Will they have funding cut, for example? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Two answers. First of all, the balance grants, loans, guarantees in the framework of the 750 billion recovery fund. I propose that when we will have an agreement, I will come back and I will present what is the outcome of the negotiations. Right now, I can only explain what's my proposal and what I put on the table. And I've explained what I think, that this balance proposed by the Commission is the right balance. About the rule of law, indeed, I propose a conditionality with rule of law and governance. It means that by qualified majority, it would be possible to take a decision with financial consequences for the member states.
And the last question goes to the BBC News, Gavin Lee. Gavin?
Can you hear me okay, first of all?
Yes, we can.
Oh, fantastic. President Michel, to give me a sense, you said a moment ago about it being your task. This is your task, you said, to make sure that this is agreed, hopefully next week. And if you can, give me a direct response to a direct question, which is, leaders have talked about the importance of compromise for the whole.
I'm sorry, Gavin. The line is really bad. Could you just
let me try
repeat your question?
Is that any better?
This must be better, yes.
Yes, it's a fairly direct question, hopefully for a direct answer, President Michel. But frankly speaking, to get a deal here, it might take your own opinion, your own influence. Do you think that the Frugal Four are being unreasonable in their opposition to giving grants?
First of all, it's not only my task. It's my task, of course, to be totally committed in order to make a deal possible, to make an agreement possible as soon as possible and during the next physical meeting. But we need the support, we need the political commitment, we need the political courage in order to be able to take a strong decision. And again, I show respect for all the opinions because I show respect not only for the European Parliament, also for the national parliament and also for the national democratic process. I show respect for all the opinions, and it's important, I think, that everybody understands what are the constraints, what are the sensitivities, what are the ideas in the different member states. Is the first condition, is the first step in order to make an agreement possible, in order to see where is the political space in order to converge. And I can tell you that we worked a lot with the different member states, with the different national authorities the last days, the last weeks, and we will continue in the next days, because I think that we need a very strong preparation, and each day between today and the physical summit will be used in order to progress, will be used in order to try to convince, and also it will be my will. I intend to listen, to continue to listen. With this proposal, there is a concrete box on the table, and it gives also the opportunity for everybody to explain, being very concrete, how it is possible to improve what's on the table in order to reach an agreement.
Thank you, Mr. President. This concludes our press conference. Please stay tuned for the technical off-the-record briefing in just a couple of minutes. We'll just go out now for a couple of